Part of this is to help out everybody. Of course, we want to make sure that we provide value, like real value, something that people can use, or at least know that there's a possible way to deal with anxiety that's different from what we normally hear mainstream, which is either you have to get medicated or you have to be stuck with it for a long time, or you have to, the common one is you have to go through session after session after session after session with some sort of therapeutic um, company, agency, individual, which are all true. They're all good, but some people need something different. Sometimes we come across people that are looking for answers that they can't find in the regular mainstream resources. And that's where Helen and I come in. Because what we do is we help those individuals who have tried so many other things, but still didn't get the relief that they're looking for. And they didn't find the answers that they wanted based on what they hope to gain for themselves. Now, I just want to say real quick that everything we share is never about demonizing or putting down other modalities, other systems. We think everything out there works to some level, but kind of like going to a car shop, if you're going to buy a new car or look for a new house, not every house you find will be for you. Not every car that you want that you see will be the one that fits for you. So this is kind of a place where people can find the system or the approach that fits them best, because a lot of times they've tried other places, other locations. And again, it was good to some level, but sometimes people feel like, hey, that's not good enough for me. I need something more. And that's where Helen and I come in to provide that kind of value. So before we continue on exactly what we do, I'm going to pass the mic over to Helen, and she can share her segment on a little bit about herself and how she helps people deal with anxiety. And then I'll chime in and share a little bit of my side. And then at the end, we'll open up for questions, comments, or shares, anything that you guys want to share or talk about. Okay? So I'm going to mute up over here. Helen, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much, Coach Allan. I call him Coach Allan because he believed in me 5 years ago to get into fitness, which back then I didn't believe I was capable. And through fitness, I learned to handle my emotions, to overcome fear, like showing up, speaking to you right now. I was very, very scared at the beginning. So I overcame that, handling my own fear. And I learned about the mind, how amazing, a beautiful mind that we all have, that many of us are not being taught how to use it properly. And by understanding our mind, I can have whatever I want in life. And not just that, be able to connect with basically, I believe right now, most important to me is my family, to be able to show up, to be a better version of me. In the past, I wasn't able to. So what I find that is having the ability to control our emotions is the most important key to have a beautiful life. Is because often we have everything, but why do we have a hard time connecting with our loved ones? Why can't we show up a little bit more calm? Why are we worried so much? I have 3 kids. I often find myself worried about them. And often I want to stay calmer for them. I want to understand better. But I find myself always have them do things my way. And because of that, I find myself at the beginning create distance between my family, especially my kids. And often my own elderly parents. So and I wanted to become a better version for them. So that's what it led to me studying how our mind works, emotions. Our mind is not what what we think it is. Like, is not what the world is not what we see. There's so much more that is out there we're not aware of. So got me into this aspect of my journey. And I learned that by understanding how our mind works, I'm happier. I have to tell, I'm so much happier now. A lot of people's actions, opinions of me no longer bother me. I can stay calmer. I mean, I can give you one example. Even like my own mother, she's in her 80s now. Her voice used to bug me all the time. She would say, "Do this, Helen, do that," and I would get really, really annoyed. But now I look at her, I can stay calmer, and instead of impatient with her, I'm more patient with her, and it not just being patient with her, but understand what make her do what she does. And that was something I always wanted to do, but I couldn't in the past. And I feel guilty for not being the best version of me to her. So right now, having the ability to control my emotions, I could stay calmer with her. And I know that there are a lot of people who have challenges with other family members. And I really wanted to share them these tools. All right, so something personal I share. That's why I'm really, really passionate to share all these tips about how our minds works. And in this case, we talk about anxiety. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you what is anxiety, what causes it, and Coach Allan will give you a few tips how to handle it quickly. Okay? Any questions for now? Okay. Okay, let me share with you. Let me see, 1 second. Can you guys see this? Yes?
Yeah.
What is anxiety and what causes it? And a few quick tips to handle it fast, all right? Before we understand what anxiety is, I wanted to share with you what our mind looks like. Our mind has two parts, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Anxiety is a fear. All our beliefs, long-term memories, fear are stored in the subconscious part of the mind, which just show up automatically. So often you find yourself not able to control your anxiety is because it's stored in the subconscious part of the mind. Consciously occupy a very small part of the mind, right? There's a conscious mind is responsible for logical thinking, short-term memory, and critical thinking. The rest of the mind responsible for everything. So a lot of your memories, emotion experiences, your belief system, everything that you learned from the past are all stored in the subconscious part of the mind. So that's why people lash out quickly, is because there's so much in our subconscious mind, a lot of things that we absorb gets into our mind. The subconscious part of the mind processes information really, really fast, and it can absorb 2 million bits of information per second, while the conscious mind can only absorb a few chunks of information per second. So a lot of the things that we show up without much awareness is because of all these things in our subconscious that are doing all the work. I like to explain our mind like the corporation. The conscious mind, imagine the conscious mind is the CEO, and the subconscious mind are all the employees in the company, in the corporation. Imagine some of the employees who represent beliefs, long-term memories, emotions are not doing a good job. What would happen, right? What would happen if you are having, if the corporation is creating a product, if one of the employees, a few of them are not doing a good job, well, the product that goes out, that the CEO take to show to the rest of the world might be defect, right? So what we deal with here is to understand what in the subconscious mind that need to looked at. For example, if the employee represent beliefs, acting disempowering and not doing a good job, the conscious mind need to speak to the employees that responsible for the beliefs, right? We have beliefs. Some beliefs are good. Some beliefs empowered us. Some beliefs disempower us. For example, if I'm too old, if I say I'm too old, that means I won't go to the gym. If I believe age is just the number, I would more likely to take actions to go to the gym, right? So those are beliefs. What we tell ourselves is true. If people said, I'm not good at something. I'm a slow learner. It's because our thoughts, first we think about thoughts, and then we take action. Those are beliefs that we have. And a lot of the beliefs are often learned through our environment. Sometimes our parents say something, even though we're not listening, even though they're teasing us. But because our subconscious mind is so big, we absorb everything when we're a child. And then when we go up, all of a sudden we tell ourselves, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I am capable of. I don't think I am smart enough. Sometimes those thoughts come up in your head and you go, how did those thoughts come up? Right? It's because a lot of those beliefs, experiences given to us. And when people say, when kids are young, when kids are young, we have to be careful what we say to them. I mean, our parents didn't know, even our grandparents didn't know, right? The good news is we can change those, we can speak to those employees and change them. All right. So let me see, hold 1 second. Okay, and next. 1 second. Okay, the role of the conscious mind. The conscious mind is responsible for logic. I'm repeating what I said, right? Reasoning, decision-making, it processes information actively and helps us navigate daily life. When dealing with anxiety, the conscious mind is where we are, okay? We recognize anxiety, thoughts, and physical symptoms. That's what I'll... 1 second. I keep saying this, right? And the conscious mind try to manage stress, but often stress is an emotion. They are stored in the back of our mind. So to make changes, we need to speak to the subconscious mind. A lot of people want to change consciously, but it doesn't work as good, right? So that's the role of the conscious mind. Okay, and this is the role of the subconscious mind. It is much more powerful than the conscious mind, all right? Much, much more powerful because all your experience, all your memories, all your beliefs, all your bodily functions are stored in the back of your mind, right? The way when you breathe, you don't have to think about it. When you walk, you don't have to think about it. If you have to remember a memory in the past, you don't have to think about it, right? So, I mean, you can actually go and learn 10 languages. A lot of 80 years old are learning new things because the mind, the subconscious mind is powerful. There's unlimited of space that we can use, all right? So why do we need to do that? It's because anxiety is a fear, and fear is stored in the subconscious part of the mind, right? 1 second. So what is 1 second. Oh my God, sorry about this. I am okay. What is anxiety? Anxiety are anxious thoughts. Anxiety is a worry, self-doubts. It's a fear. It's a secondary fear. What do you mean by that? You see, our body is already equipped with a fight and flight system. So if all of a sudden you encounter danger, your body will react immediately, try to protect you. But when we have a fear, a thought, for example, scare, right? Something, for example, talking to someone or speaking in public, or for example, going to ask someone to go out on a date. That fear is not the primary fear you to protect your body, like asking for someone for a date, asking someone to buy something. That those are not dangerous. So this is what is called a secondary fear. And that fear is learned, is not built in, is learned by watching other people in our environment and also through our own experiences, all right? So what anxiety is also panic. So because it's not dangerous, but it prevents us from getting what we want in life, right? Not asking someone to go out because you want to, then stop you from getting to know people. And what about a dream that you want and you're scared, all right? Scared, so prevent you from getting what you want. So anxious thought also, why is it anxious thought? Because we think about something might go wrong, right? So thinking something might go wrong. So when we think of something might go wrong, our body react. The body and the mind are the same. We think first and then our body act, all right? So when we think about something in the future that might go wrong, so it's emotion, it's fear dealing with the future, okay? So a lot of people have anxious thought is because they keep thinking what might go wrong, or something they have no control, and they keep reliving, all focus on what might go wrong. So, and the more they think about it, the more the body reacts to it. It's like a habit, right? It's adding fuel to a thought. It's the energy. Our thoughts are just energy. The more you focus on it, the more energy it receives. So when we think about something go wrong, we get nervous, and our body eventually learn that. And the more you do it, and our body literally just get conditioned to that negative thought. All right. And here, so a lot of people want to know what causes anxiety. In general, a feeling of being not in control of your result or outcome. Second, when we focus on negative outcomes, what might go wrong? And a lot of times, people have lack a clear outcome, no idea what will happen, no goal, no outcome, right? Imagine you're on a trip, you have no planning, you're a spontaneous person. Because you're so spontaneous person, a lot of things come out in the middle. So a lot of times when people have anxious because they cannot visualize the outcome. So everything, imagine you're driving and there's no GPS. You will be scared and you will be afraid, right? So when we have no outcome, no plan, when we are on a journey, that's what causes people to have anxious thoughts, right? And also, anxiety is caused by, I have to say, by our environment. If our parents, our grandparents, or the people around us show anxiety, we're more likely to pick it up because that's what humans do. They love to imitate other people. And often our mind, especially when we're young, we don't know the difference, what's good and what's bad, right? So negative anchors. If parents keep thinking that way, that's scary. Don't talk to strangers. Don't watch the news. Listen to news can cause people anxiety. So a lot of times it's our environment that sort of program into our mind, right? When you do more of it, you can be more likely to have the intensity of anxious thoughts, okay? And what else causes anxiety? Feeling overwhelmed. When we have so much stuff, we just don't know where to start. For example, if somebody have a messy house and everything's unorganized and you walk in, you don't know where to start. That's one of another reason people feel overwhelmed, right? So you imagine you go to someone's house and they have everything organized. They know everything, they know all the things in the house versus somebody have no idea. I'm guilty of it myself, right? So when you know everything is easy to focus, right? Lack of focus can give us anxious thoughts. Okay, so let's see, right here. Anxiety is a learned behavior. It often comes from parenting style, isolated upbringing, ring structure, society expectations, a little bit genetics, like observing others with anxiety, and often is from early traumatic experience. Okay. And I'll give you a little bit here. And here I dig this out, how anxiety affects our health. For some people, it causes insomnia, other fast heartbeat, a lot of sweating, shaking or twisting, headaches, fatigue, shortness of breath, or some people experience digestive problems. And a lot of time people might think it's physical, but anxiety, a lot of the symptoms here are due to emotions that are not handled. So a lot of people sometimes have physical symptoms. If they don't understand their emotions, they might not be aware that the thoughts can have such a big impact in the physical body. So most people would go to the doctor, and the doctor often would just give them medication without looking into the thoughts. Okay, so this is very important to know how anxiety affects our body. Instead of just going straight and get the medication, might want to take a look at your thoughts, what kind of thoughts that you have that might affect your physical body. All right. Coach Allan will explain a few tips on how to handle anxiety.
Awesome. Thanks for the share. Very good as always. And for everybody else that's here that just joined us, welcome aboard. Once again, my name's Allan, and this is Helen. We are the co-creators of Emotional Enlightenment Consulting. We specialize in a particular method for helping people reduce, minimize, or completely eradicate their anxiety. And that method that we use is called emotional restoration. And before I dig into that a little deeper, allow me just to change this. I'm going to take over host for a second. Part of the things I want you guys to know real fast is that there we go. When it comes to making shifts, making change, what we believe in is speed. And so what I'm just sharing with you right here, Helen, can you tell me if you can see my screen right now? See Vicky's photo. Do you see that at all? She's
Sorry,
muted.
yes, I can
Hello.
hear you.
Can you see Vicky's? I need your
Yes.
feedback because I'm using a different laptop today.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, folks, thank you. So, folks, this is some examples I want to share before I get into the how. This is a lady named Vicky, and she openly allowed us to share her photo, her video. It's why we can talk about her today. This is a lady who had been stuck with massive anxiety. When I say massive, what I'm referring to is a problem that she experienced with her family, specifically with her father. This was over 40 years ago. So imagine living your life with this traumatic experience that you had as a young child. And then for 10, 20, 30, 40 years plus into her 50s, every time she goes through this experience of something that triggers her, it relates to this thing she had to go through as a child. So for 40 plus years, she was dealing with this heavy level of anxiety. And I don't have to get into it. If ever you want to see it for yourself, the video's right here. She explains in full detail. But what happened, long story short, is within one session of working with Vicky over Zoom, so not even face to face, like Helen and I, we are here in Vancouver, BC, Canada. Vicky at the time was living in Florida. So we're not neighbors. We had to do it online. Despite being far from each other, despite having to do it over Zoom, and with only one time that we had a chance to work with her on this first occasion, we were able to help her reduce her anxiety from 80% all the way down to 20%. In other words, when anxiety was on her mind 80% of the time, she had no control over the way she felt, over the way she was living. She was easily triggered, like many people having to live with anxiety. But what we did is when we finished the session with her, we asked her, we said, Vicky, can you close your eyes and imagine going back to that experience, the thing that made you feel heavily triggered, the anxiety. I want you to relive it. Now, we don't say that in the beginning because it's painful. But once the transformation is done, we ask them to relive it because we need to know. You know, are they just being nice and saying that they got a great result? Or did they actually experience an amazing result? And it was beautiful because Vicky could actually tell us. She said, look, my eyes are shut. I'm back at that time. I see that situation with my family. I see that situation with my father and with all these other people that triggered her heavily. And she said, oh my God, it was amazing. Like, I can't, those feelings that I have that hurt me so bad, they're gone. And she actually started to tear a little bit on her first experience because she was just so relieved, number one. And number two, she was amazed by the fact that even happened. This is another lady over here. Her name's Marion, again, sharing her face and her name because she was willing to share it publicly. She was going through the experience of wanting to transition from her day job into something that most people would think is impossible. She wanted to become a star. She's out in Germany, and she wanted to become not a movie star, but she wanted to be like, in Germany, they've got this thing that would be the equivalent of like a Broadway show. So she kind of wanted to be like the Germany's version of a Broadway artist, a Broadway theater performer. But the problem was that a part of her brain kept saying to herself, like, you're not good enough. Like, what makes you think you can do this? And not only was a part of her brain saying that to her, so imagine like half of her saying, I want to go do this thing. I want to make something of myself. I want to go after this career shift in my life. But the other half was saying, no, I don't think, like, who do you think you are? It's this internal battle that was happening in her head. Have you ever gone through something like that yourself that might even trigger the feelings of anxiety? Well, she'd been struggling with this for years. And what we figured out with her on the first time talking to her was that she was battling not only the climb to what you call success, but she was also battling these voices in her head that was saying, you're not good enough. Why do you think you can do that? You can't do that, can't make it happen. Like, you should just stick to your day job. Have you ever gone through that before where there's that internal battle? Most people have, right? What was really interesting in working with Marion is that we discovered that the voices in her head were not actually her voices. We helped her travel back in time in her mind to a time when she was really young. And we discovered that the voices in her head were not actually hers. Like, they sounded like hers, they looked like hers, but the anxiety voices that kept talking to her actually they stemmed all the way back from 7 or 6 years old from experiences that she had with her mother. But here's the crazy part, okay? Here's the crazy part. Until we had that session together, she had no idea that those voices came from something that happened when she was so young. So, to make a long story short, once we discovered, okay, so these voices in your head are coming from this part, what we did is we helped her travel back in her mind. And again, this is all in one session, okay? This is not like 10, 20, 30 sessions in. This is one single session. Took us just under 3 hours to complete. But in that one session, she not only was able to find that problem in her past that her brain just kept replaying in her head in different ways, different voices, in different images, but we were able for her to restructure the way she looked, the way she experienced that past event with her mom. And through that shift, what ended up happening is she was able to look at that painful challenge that she had with her mother, and she was able to build a story inside herself that said, hey, this wasn't meant to hurt me. It was meant to empower me. It was meant to make me bigger, bolder, stronger. It was meant to make me break through it. Not the stuff that we're telling her. Like, I'm not saying that's what we said to her. That's the stuff she figured out for herself. Now, we've got so many stories, and sorry, to close off with that, fast forward a year and a half later, she's now on the road path. She's going on multiple stages. She's doing multiple shows. She competes for this top tier, again, like a Broadway position against dozens and dozens and dozens of different types of theater performers, artists. Like, she's in the game, she's in the hunt. And it's beautiful because she was never able to climb that ladder until that story in her head that was driving her full of anxiety was dissolved and released from her mind. And we've got tons of stories like that. We've got this young lady over here, her name's Genus, and her challenge was that she was suffering with anxiety. She couldn't run her regular life. Her mom was passing away, And she was so worried and terrified about her mom, about herself, about how she can help her mom, how she can't help her mom. Like her world completely turned upside down, completely. Until we met her, we figured out what the problem was. And to make this a little shorter, she went from not living a normal life of being full of regret, worry, fear, staying at home all the time, avoiding friends, avoiding help from other people, avoiding doing normal things like go to a restaurant, enjoy your time with friends. She went from not being able to do anything to being in the same room with her mother on the last few minutes before her mom passed away. Something Genus never thought she was able to do, because just being around her mother, just knowing her mom was about to leave this world, caused such a negative shock in her body that she felt rendered useless because she couldn't do anything for anyone. She couldn't be there for her mom. Not until we were able to help her release that negative belief that was inside of her. So, folks, I'm sharing this with you because I want you to know, if you want to see the work that we've done, the results, there's lots of different testimonials here from different people that have different background experiences. Like this is James, is a guy who also lost his mother to illness. And for literally a year and a half, he could not function properly. The anxiety turned into depression. Depression turned into rage. He went on this cycle of just going from the social butterfly, going out talking to friends, hanging out with buddies. Like he was like the center of the party when he walked into a room. He went from being that kind of person to becoming completely hermited, per se, where he would just go to work. He would cry while he was at work. He'd become completely emotional, and what he describes, sometimes not even rational. He'd get mad out of nowhere. And instead of living his life, going to the gym, spending time with his partner and his friends, he would literally just go home to his bedroom and cry. He did that for months. 3 sessions later, not only was he no longer trapped in his body and in his mind, but he was able to say goodbye to his mom. He was able to go back and live his life with his friends. He was able to feel empowered again, versus what most people do, where they lose a loved one and for years they're stuck in this repeated cycle of pain and anxiety. Like, do you know anybody that's gone through that? I'm sure you probably have. And I'm sure you probably know what it's like, either yourself or by seeing someone who's gone through it, how painful that depression, that anger, that anxiety can be to both the mind and the body if it isn't handled, right? So I've given you guys a lot on the testimonials, on the people we've helped. Let me give you a little breakdown to support what Helen just said earlier, to help you understand why it's so effective. Switching the page over, I'm hoping you guys can see a photo. This is a classic. It's not my photo. I actually picked it up from the internet because everybody understands it. And most people have seen it if they're into this work. This iceberg represents the conscious mind, the top part, which is a small little piece of that iceberg, and the subconscious mind, which is the giant part that we see down here that I'm scrolling down below. This is important to remember because the next time you're feeling anxiety, and the next time you go through anxiety and you ask yourself the question, if you do, which is some version of, well, why is this happening to me? Why can't I change this? Like, I don't want this anxiety. Like, why can't I just get rid of it now? The reason it's hard for most people to get rid of anxiety is because they're trying to do it from up here. This top portion of the iceberg, it represents the front of our brain called the prefrontal cortex. And it's literally, if you had to look at it in terms of volume of size, it's literally like this tip of the iceberg. Our prefrontal cortex does a lot of things like make decisions, like give us the ability to listen, to process information, to try to remember short-term things. But The problem is that anxiety doesn't live in this part of the brain. And most people don't know this. This is why it doesn't work very well for most people when they try to tell themselves, well, why can't I just change this? Like I should just feel better now. Well, if it lived here, then we could do it. But anxiety does not live here. Anxiety lives way down here. And this is the part of the brain where it stores. It has so many functions, but the one most commonly used that applies to anxiety is that it stores midterm and long-term memories. When I say long-term, I mean literally from the moment we're born, like 1 day old, 1 year old, 1 month old. Do you notice how when we're first born, we don't have any memories of that? You notice how everybody across the board, unless something traumatic really happened or some sort of event triggered heavy emotions, do you notice how most of us just don't have any memories from childhood, for example? Well, guess what? Even though we don't have memories of our childhood, like that we can pull up, do you know that your subconscious still records, like your brain, it still records every single event, every moment, everything you ever saw, tasted, heard, smelled, experienced from the day you're born? Problem though, that part is in the back of our heads. And the reason why we don't know is because no one ever taught us how to recall that information. But it's in there, it's in the back of our heads. So, why is that important? The reason why that's important is because when trying to make change, please make a note of this, okay? Anxiety can only be removed when the subconscious is accessed. Anxiety can only be removed, like I'm talking long term, when the subconscious part of our brain is accessed. And the reason why is because, again, think of your subconscious like this iceberg. Think of it as like a memory bank. This memory bank in the back of our heads goes super deep. Like what Helen said earlier, this stores 2 million bits, 2 million bits of information per second. Per second. It's huge. Whereas when you look at the conscious brain, the conscious only stores and processes 128 bits of information per second. So 128 versus 2 million. No wonder why most people don't know how to get rid of their anxiety. They're looking at the 128 memory bank, but all of that anxiety is stored in the 2 million memory bank. Okay? So how do we make this shift? Like, how do we make this change? And why are we able to do it so fast? The reason why we can help people quickly, like when I say quickly, what I physically mean is first session working with us, we expect no less. It should be more, but at bare minimum, we expect at least a 50% reduction in negative anxiety, releasing from the body, releasing from the mind. No joke. One session. Sometimes, let me be fully transparent. Sometimes people need 2 sessions. Sometimes, rarely, but it happens. Sometimes people need 3. But whether it's 1, 2, or 3 sessions, it is not 50 sessions, which is more of the common situation of going back to a therapeutic person week after week after week on the same problem, same problem, same problem. And then after a year or two, then it's better. You know, that has its place. But when it comes to anxiety, it's tough to wait it out that long, right? I'm physically talking about 3 sessions or less, 50% reduction to the point where a person can think about that thing that causes anxiety and they can feel at least 50% of that emotional discomfort gone. Now, where we learned this from comes from two people. I've talked about them several times. Pulling it up on DuckDuckGo over here, kind of like a Google. This is Richard Bandler. For those of you that are unfamiliar, please make a note of his name. Richard Bandler is the co-creator. It's not a very flattering photo of Richard, but that's Richard. That's probably a screenshot from one of the videos. Richard Bandler, I'm leaving that up so you can see his name. He, along with this other guy over here, named John Grinder. John Grinder was a linguist, and Richard Bandler was a mathematician. These two geniuses put together figured out that the human brain actually operates like a computer. Like it's very identical to the design of a computer. What do I mean by that? What I mean is when you look at your computer, have you noticed that your computer doesn't do anything unless you input a command? Have you noticed your computer doesn't do anything unless you input a command? In other words, you want the computer to turn on, you got to click a button, right? If you want your computer to show you a particular website, you got to move your mouse with your hand and then type in the website with your fingers. Well, what these two guys figured out is that the brain, specifically the subconscious, actually works the same way. But how do you do that? Like, how do you do that when you can't physically, like, you can't sit there and like tap on your forehead and be like, okay, well, nothing's working, Allan. You said it's like a computer. Why am I getting a headache? I don't mean it like physically tapping. What I mean is that these two individuals had recognized, please make a note of this, okay? All anxiety, all experiences of anxiety have a direct relation to an image or images that we have in our mind that are also related to the five senses that we have in our body. So the five senses are feeling, taste, touch, sound, and smell, right? Not all anxiety relates to all five, but usually most anxiety experiences relate to an image, oftentimes a sound, not always, but often, and also the color. The color, or if it's like a bright color, or if it's a dim color. Okay. So why is this important? This is important because when you learn where those three things are in relation to your anxiety, at a very beginner level, like at a grade 1 level, they also figured out that if you can shift that image, kind of like moving your mouse to move a photo from one side of your monitor to the next, kind of like that. If you can learn to do that inside your subconscious, then oftentimes that gives you command, control, and power over the way you feel about that triggering event that we call anxiety. And this is genius because I call it genius because one thing I understand about geniuses is that, and I'm sure you know this too, geniuses are very good at being able to take a very complex idea and then dialing it down to like a grade 1, grade 2 level, something where almost everybody can get it, right? So it's why they like to use a lot of metaphors, because if they use their language, a lot of it's like computer code language, we're not going to get it. But when you dial it down to like pictures, sounds, feelings, well, everybody understands that. And so what we've discovered is that just by moving those three things over, it gives us more command and control over the way we feel. So here's a quick example, okay? We're going to open up here for questions in a second, but I want to close off with this example. This is a rough diagram of a person's life. It's something that we call the time of their life, or in short, we call it like the line of their life, or a timeline. If you look over on the right side of this photo, this says future. In the middle, close to the middle where it says now, that means present, like this moment of now. And in the left side, it says past. And I'm talking about the pink section. And then right below it says the Gestalt. Gestalt is like one of the methods that we've infused into this system that we use to help people deal with their anxiety. What they've learned is that if you can, number one, like I said earlier, go back to that time in your life where you can figure out where that discomfort is, how it started. And then number two, you can change it, the way it looks, the way it sounds, the way it feels inside your body. Then if you go back to the present, you're going to notice the anxiety gets diminished. Now we have this other part where we talk about going into the future. Like imagine a time in the future where you have this feeling of anxiety, something triggers you, or something makes you feel that anxiety again. We test this by figuring out, does your anxiety affect you in the future? Well, here's what's interesting. When you learn to heal the anxiety from your past, it no longer affects you in the present and future. If you can learn to deal with anxiety in the past, it no longer affects your present, and it certainly does not affect your future. So let's do a quick exercise together. Okay, we'll do a quick exercise together, and then let's open up for questions here. Walk you guys through this exercise. Okay, it's very simple. It's very simple. Thankfully, we're all muted here, so we don't need to know. You know, we do this in public groups. We always say, don't share your personal stuff unless you feel comfortable to be open about it. So I want you to pretend right now that this is an open setting and we can all hear each other. All right. Knowing that everybody can hear each other, I want you to say this only in your head. So your personal stuff is kept your personal stuff. I want you to think of a time where you experienced some version of what you call anxiety. I know that you probably have many different kinds of anxiety, but I want you to pick just one for now. And from that one experience of anxiety, I want you to just pick that one, and I want you to just notice, where in your mind does it show up? Like sometimes it shows up like sometimes people tell us it's in the center of my, like I see it like right in front of me. Some people say I see it over on the left. Some people say I see it over on the right. Some are like, oh, it's way down below. Wherever you see it, just make note of, where do you see this image, this memory of anxiety? And just remember where that is, number one. Number two, I want you to ask yourself, is it in color or is it in black and white? Is it in color or is it in black and white? And number three, if you're starting to feel some of that anxiety now, I want you to notice, where does this feeling of anxiety show up in your body? Most people will tell us they either feel it in their stomach or kind of like between their chest and their stomach, like their mid-torso. Or some people have told us they feel it in their head. So I know it's a little uncomfortable, but if you'll allow yourself to try this, you may find some relief already when we're done. Noticing this anxiety is coming through your body at whatever level, give it a number right now from 1 to 10. From 1 to 10. 1 is like, I don't feel any anxiety at all, Allan. And a 10 is like, oh my God, it's almost like I am reliving the experience right now. Wherever you feel the anxiety, whatever level number you feel, it's the one for you. Just make a mental note of where that is, okay? How strong that anxiety is. Okay, gonna give you 3 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right. So now I want you to imagine that the screen of your mind, whatever you're seeing, make everything either go black or all white. And for 5 seconds, I need you to imagine what it looks like to see a pink elephant. A pink elephant, I know it sounds retarded, but just trust me on this. A pink elephant floats up on your screen, and it's floating from the left side of your mind all the way to the right. And that pink elephant now fades away. So everything is now pitch black again. Saw the pink elephant? All right, good. So now, I want you to now to just take a deep breath. This time, head is going to be straight. I'm going to ask that you put your head straight, and your eyeballs, I need you to roll them up for me. So it's almost like you're trying to gently see your eyebrows, like you're trying to look at your own eyebrows. Eyes up is important because it triggers memory recall and it heightens imagination. Everybody, we need this in order to make this next part effective. So head is straight, eyeballs up. With this physical position in place, I now want to ask you to bring up the thought of anxiety again. Now, again, as you see the anxiety, find the location of where it is. Number one. Number two, I want you to grab it, like physically grab it with your hands as if you're moving the mouse on your computer. I want you to grab that image of the anxiety and I want you to move it into the opposite side of your mind. So if it's over on the left, move it to the right. If it's at the bottom, move it to the top. Vice versa. Like, you know what I mean? Okay, so physically grab that. I know it feels weird, but trust me on this. Physically grab it, number one. Number two, I want you to make it the opposite color. So if it's in color, make it black and white. If it's in black and white, make it color. Okay? If it's in color, make it black and white. If it's in black and white, make it color. It's number two. Once you've done that, number three, I want you to take that image and I want you to throw it as far forward as you can, as if you can grab that image and throw it. And I want you to keep seeing that image until it's literally the size of your thumb. See it. And if it's like, if most people can just imagine this, and that's great. If you're one of those people that are stuck, that means you're probably kinesthetic. Kinesthetic means touch, tactile. So you have to physically use your hand as if you're grabbing that anxiety image. And I want you to throw it as far as you possibly can. And just notice it getting smaller and smaller and smaller in your mind. Now, as you notice that feeling of anxiety, that image of anxiety going further out, take the feeling of anxiety wherever it is in your body. So let's say it's down here, like I'm kind of grabbing the top of my stomach right now. I want you to imagine pulling that feeling of anxiety from your stomach and pulling it out of your body. And like some people, it doesn't click right away. Sometimes you have to do it 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So as funny as this looks, and it's just us, the world's not watching, so it's cool. No one's judging you. Do it a few times until you start to notice that it feels a little different. And again, throw that as far as you can away. What you're actually doing right now is you're doing something called a subconscious reframe. The reason why it's subconscious is because even though you're moving stuff with your hands, because you're thinking about the anxiety, that's attached to your subconscious. And as long as the anxiety raises emotion, you are learning how to tap into this part of your brain and adjust the moving objects, the parts, the images that your brain comes up. You're scrambling it almost like taking a puzzle and you're breaking the puzzle up and you're throwing the pieces everywhere. But that puzzle that you have in front of you is an image of your anxiety. Now, if you did this with me, which I'm hoping you did, I can't see because I'm staring at my camera right now. It's like this big. But I'm hoping you did this with me. So I want to ask you, as you did this with me, did you notice a slight change in the way your anxiety felt? Did you notice a slight change? Now, for most people, they'll actually say, yeah, I went from like an 8 to a 6, or I went from like a 5 to a 4 or a 3. This is kind of like a micro example of the macro exercise we do on a one-to-one private session. In a private session, we go much deeper, we go much more in depth, and we create a much more positive result. But for the sake of time, because we don't have 3 hours and it's a free call, it's open, and I don't know your situation personally. So if I did, I would customize this specifically to you. But because I don't have that information, I'm just going with the general like 1, 2, 3 step, which is fine because notice that even in that short 3 steps for like the, just under 30 minutes I've been talking, did you notice that shift already start to happen in your body? If you notice that shift, then recognize something. You have the power to shift the way you feel about any event. You have the power and capability to shift the way you feel about any event. And when I say any, I mean any, because the people that have been coming to us, some of them have gone through the most horrific stories that I feel almost, horrified to share with you here on this call. But even though some of these people have come from the darkest, hardest, most challenging experiences in their life, even though they come from that place, we still were able to help them overcome those problems, those challenges, those results. We're able to help them break free. And we know that if we can help them break free, then we know that we can help anyone break free. They just need to know how to do that. And this is the first step to making that change. So that's the part that I wanted to close off with you, is to let you know that there's a possibility to make shifts happen. I know you might have questions. So Helen, I'm going to ask that you click back and take over the, what do you call it again? Put me back in attendee mode if you could.
Uh, you
Yeah.
you took over the.
Yeah, you can take it back.
I could not find that button.
Oh, okay. Here. Stop share.
There we go. Finally.
Okay. All right, cool.
Thank you, Coach Allan.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So before we go, is there anybody that wants to ask any questions, any comments that they want to share? It seems surprised me to give my test. Need to leave that. Feel free to consent share. Oh, Shirley was being so kind to just say that if there's anything we want to share about her experiences, that we could as well. I think
I
we'll
guess
probably
you can
hold that
raise your
off.
hand if you have questions.
Yeah, hold that off for next time. Here's what we're going to do. So in short, before we leave, if you go over to the chat section, I'm going to leave a couple of links in there for you folks. One is just a list of the testimonials of people that have shared a bit about their lives and how we're able to help them transform. When looking at testimonials, it's not necessarily about how great we are. I mean, that's nice, when people give us compliments. But what we really care about is letting you know, you probably want to know, how effective is it to make these changes for you? How quickly can you get from being in a place of anxiety to getting to a place of relief fast? We could tell you all day that it could be quick, but don't you think it might be more impactful for you if you saw some of the life stories that people have shared about before they met us versus after? And that's really what those testimonials do for you. Okay. The second link I sent in there was our website link. So our website gives you a little bit of detail about our history, about our past. We're regular people just like you. I want you to know this. We're regular people that have gone through our own trauma, our own challenges. I was an ex-drug and alcoholic. Back in my 20s, I almost committed suicide. I tried to by the time I was 24. And I had to use this training and these techniques to restructure my mind and my life. Because without it, my life was going down this really dark direction where if I wasn't careful, I probably would have been dead by now. And if I didn't have this training, I certainly would not be here talking to you today. And Helen and I would not have this opportunity to help the dozens of people overcome their own struggles over the past 2 years. So I'll leave you that link as well. But the last link I'm going to leave in there is our YouTube. Our YouTube shares some of the actual one-to-one experiences. So if you want to see what it looks like, you're not going to see a full session because a lot of their private stuff, we have to, keep it private. But what you will see is the before and the after effect within that same one session that people have, those that were willing to share, of course. And so that'll give you some insight on what does the session look like for you? What does a transformation experience, what that might look like for you if you're looking to make that shift for yourself and not take 20, 30, 50 sessions, 2, 3 years to do it, but do it in 1, maybe 2, maybe 3. And of course, on that site as well, if there's questions that you have that you think about later, Helen and I are very responsive. We'll always get back. So hit us up on our site, ask us whatever questions you want. We're open books, and we'll always get back to you because we want to make sure that we're empowering you with this kind of knowledge as well. Okay. Ms. Fong, before we go, any other closing comments you want to share real quick?
No, I'm looking for questions, but can you unmute? Do they have a chance to?
Well, I think they're going to mute themselves. Yeah.
Oh, they can
I don't
mute.
want to pressure them.
Oh, I couldn't do it on my end. I don't know.
Oh, folks, if you want to unmute, try hitting the unmute button. If you can't unmute, there should be, just wave your hand at us, let me know, and then I can unmute you here manually. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they can unmute themselves too.
No,
You won't be able to, Helen, because you're
YouTube overhost. So you have
you can unmute yourself, like you can unmute yourself, but they can unmute themselves too.
Oh yes, I can. Oh, she can do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Andrea, are you able to unmute yourself?
She trying to unmute?
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, perfect.
Hi, Andrea.
Hi, I'm from northern BC.
Oh, okay, cool. Like which part of northern BC?
Dawson Creek.
Dawson Creek? Dawson
Yeah.
Creek? Oh,
Wow.
nice. I haven't had a chance to visit there yet, but I hear it's nice and quiet.
It is, but it's cold.
Up north is always cold, right?
Minus
My God.
39 today.
Minus 39. I'm staying home. You're probably similar to John. John's out in Manitoba, and it's cold over there too. Oh my God.
Minus 39?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
I think
Glad you're
our
home and
here is
toasty.
was it -4? That was the
That's
in
crazy.
Vancouver. We still have some
Yeah.
little bit
Oh,
snow.
yeah.
Yeah, we got down to
but not
minus.
39.
Yeah, we got down to
Wow.
minus 42 last night.
Wow, that's
42?
crazy. Both
Yeah.
of you. Wow. It makes me feel so thankful I'm here at -1.
Even -1, I'm
Oh,
like
boy.
almost
That's crazy.
slipping myself on the sidewalk.
That's so funny. It's funny. Andrew, did you have a question for us that you wanted to ask? Feel free.
No,
No? Okay. Okay, cool.
I found
cool.
it very interesting.
I'm glad you did. Did you get a chance?
Shirley was telling me about it this morning. That was super.
Oh, Shirley's like the networker here. They're like people, when they show up on this call, more people are coming from Shirley than just about anybody else. It's
Oh,
crazy.
really?
Yeah, very thankful for her. She's a wonderful lady. And that's so cool that you found us through her. Hopefully you
Yeah.
found this really helpful.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, it's perfect. That's good. That's good.
Have a good day.
Folks, yeah, listen, thank you so much for being here. John, thanks for being here. Everybody else that chimed in and out, we appreciate having you. We're going to host these calls every Saturday, and we're going to have different ways of sharing, like anxiety as a problem, but more so as a solution. Like, what can you do to deal with your anxiety if you don't have support, if you don't have other channels that can help you get rid of it fast? Or if you're just in that place where you're like, I need something more, I need something better. This is a place that people can come and share, that they can learn, and they can also apply. We'll always share techniques in here.
Will it be
Say it
free?
again.
Will it be free?
These calls every Saturday are free.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, just like the one you're in right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, folks. Helen, do you want to close off with anything you want to share before we go?
No, thank you so much for showing up. And Andrea, this call is to answer questions and give, a little bit knowledge about what anxiety is, because I learned that many people have very little knowledge and they're not getting from I guess from other areas in their life. So I learned a few tips with Coach Allan and find it very useful. And I love the fact that our clients are getting great results. So I wanted to share more and more so people can live a happier, healthier life.
Awesome. Very good.
I have
So-
Folks, again,
Sorry?
you what?
I have anxiety. My psychiatrist just resigned. So
Oh,
it's
got it.
hard to get mental health services over here. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That's one of the reasons I have, keep showing up here in workshop.
that's good.
I will put more on Facebook to attract people to the workshop. But now just, a small close group.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So we can answer most people's questions. You were right, Andrea. The mental health.
It's bad all over Canada, I think.
Yes, yeah. Maybe you can tell us how long, if you don't mind sharing, how long have you been seeing your psychiatrist?
Oh, well, I've been from psychiatrist to psychiatrist. So I moved from Ontario like 20 years ago. Not 20 years ago. 3 years ago, I moved to Tumblr. And there was a psychiatrist I started with. But then, like, because of COVID, I had to talk to her on the phone. Then I started with another one. And him I only saw twice, and that was it. So, and now I'm doing a self-esteem course.
Good. Good. You're taking action, trying to make it better for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
I'm
Very
happy
good. Well,
that
you know what?
you took part here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep coming, okay? Keep
I
coming. If
will.
we can help you here on these free calls, at least to
Okay.
start off, then we're more than happy to help you here. Okay?
Okay.
Perfect.
Awesome, Andrea. Really nice
Thank
to meet
you.
you today.
Have
Yeah,
a
thank
good
you.
Keep
weekend.
yourself warm.
You too. Stay warm out
I
there,
will.
John and Andrea. Absolutely. You guys take it easy. Thanks again for participating, okay?
See you
Welcome.
next weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys.
See you later. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye, John.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye, Andrea. Bye, Helen.
Bye.
Bye.
However.